I never considered myself to be, great, in terms of like the offensive players, because that wasn't my goal. But on the defensive side, that's where you won games, right? That's where championships were won.
Yeah.
And if you could figure that piece out, like you gave yourself a really good opportunity to like win games. And so to have all that, like all those experiences come back this year, and to have all this, all these events, like it's filled my cup. And I've just been so grateful to see old teammates and to recount some of the stories and just kind of have fun with it, because it's once in a lifetime opportunities that you get to experience the rest of your life.
Welcome to the Salem Business Journal podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Pione, and with me I have Nat Borchers, Hall of Fame professional soccer players with the Timbers.
Yep.
Real estate investor extraordinaire.
Yep.
Tiny soccer ball hacky sack champion.
Oh no, I don't do that. Yeah,
with the little soccer ball.
It wasn't hacky sack. It was like a plastic ball. Like,
yes,
but that was I did crush that,
which is separate than soccer.
It is in the same kind of arena of technique and skill. But yes,
that's fair
for sure.
I would like to thank our sponsors. Thank you to Hotel Salem and Compass Visuals for sponsoring the podcast. Appreciate you guys and making this possible. And also thank you, Nat, for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So recently, right, we met originally because you came in shot for one of my other podcasts, the Dirt to Sky business podcast.
Yep.
And we just hit it off really good because you're an awesome guy. And
don't disagree.
Yeah, y'all agree. But what I really appreciated about you is your genuineness, and like I could tell that you actually care. And that's something that like is really hard to find in a lot of people, because like a lot of people will care sometimes in the sense of it's self-interest.
Mm-hmm.
But like one thing I noticed about you was like you cared even if it's something that didn't directly benefit you, which that's something I really respect, and I really liked about you, especially when even when I first met you, I could see that.
I appreciate that. I mean, I've always tried to notice when people are doing big things, and I noticed from the start that you are doing big things for our community right here in Salem, and whether it's bringing people on to talk, about a podcast, right? On a podcast about something that's important to Salem, whether it's a political issue or it's a real estate issue or it's something that, is important to the community, talking about ideas, right? To make this place, a better place for all of us. Like that checks my boxes, and it gets me excited because we need more people like yourself to bring us up. And, I see Salem as, Team Salem, right? We're in this thing together, and it's more fun when you have people who care, right? It's more fun when you have people who have energy, and it's more fun when you have people who have ideas. And it's like, we, whenever we get together, you and I, or you, me and AJ, or other people, it's like there's just fun things that happen. Yeah. So I get excited to come see you and talk about these fun things.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, the first thing I want to cover is something pretty big that happened recently, right? So you were under contract for the JCPenney's building. Mm-hmm. And there were some pretty big plans brewing, and then things kind of fell through. What was it? What was it exactly that? How did that decision making go? Because I remember our conversations, and you were so excited for it.
Yeah.
And I loved how much effort you put into hearing people. Hey, what do you want? And really, you put so much intention and effort into that. And so obviously, I know your heart was in it. Mm-hmm. But what kind of happened with that deal?
Yeah, so we have to rewind back to May of this year, and which is when we, officially got under contract with that building, and we had probably a 3-month timeline between like May, June, and July to make decisions. And so when you get under contract with anything in real estate, there's a process, right? You have your due diligence process, which involves you need financing from a bank. You also have to figure out like what's wrong with the asset you're purchasing, right? And so we went like gangbusters on both of those things. But the third thing that was like really important was figuring out what it needed, right? Because it wasn't like we were buying apartment buildings where you could just say, there's 50 tenants who are going to go in here, and it's all 2-bed, 1-bath apartments.
Yeah,
it's a blank slate, and so
you have to create it.
And it's a canvas, right? It's just like, okay, what is it that needs to go here? It's 100,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So it's a bigger project than I'd ever been a part of.
It's a ton of space.
It
you
is.
were literally transforming an abandoned mall is
Right.
what you would like. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
a big lift.
and it's a heavy lift, and it's
What some might say it's a heavy
yeah.
lift.
So check out our podcast, Heavy Lifts. But I think when you look at it, it was a single tenant user, right? JCPenney was the
Yeah.
user. It's still referred to as the JCPenney building. We wanted to change it to a different name to just give it because it was going to be something different.
Yes.
But what I looked at it, where I looked at it and why, we intersected, it was like, it wasn't going to be, a building, with just one tenant or two or three. It was going to be a multi-tenant building with tenants from all over Salem. And I've looked at it as a community building, a hub where, people from Salem would be able to come and, be entertained, have a nice meal, do some shopping, like all these things. And so I needed to know what they wanted, right? What the people wanted. And it was like asking those questions was really fun. I mean, it was like, I got like 100 DMs like the first day I did it. And there was all kinds of great interest in it and, lots of good feedback. And we were really, really stoked about the opportunity. And then, our first deadline hit, which was end of July. Okay. So we had to ask for an extension because we still didn't have plans. We still didn't have a construction budget, in those 3 months. We couldn't get that done.
Oh.
Right. So we needed another 3 months to figure it out. And then we got to the end of that period of time. And what we realized was we were under contract for too much. It was like what we wanted to do was going to be too expensive. Right. It was going to, just cost more than what we thought initially that we were under contract for. And, there were some, outstanding deferred maintenance items with the building that needed to be addressed that we couldn't fit into that budget. So we went to the sellers, had a sit down conversation with them.
Yeah.
They were, reasonable people, but they didn't want to take the price concession, right, that we had offered. And it was hard. You're 6 months into a deal, you've invested your heart and soul into it. There was a lot of, costs on the marketing side that we'd already kind of sunk in, with some documentary things we were doing. And,
I was excited for that.
Yeah.
I loved seeing that happen and just hearing the stories. Actually, it was actually really cool.
And I want to release that, regardless of, what ends up happening with the building, because I think it was just to hear people's stories about what that building used to be and how much, energy it created for the city of Salem. Yeah. It was just so fun. But, that's what happens, in the real estate game. And, you don't, you can't always win. And in this case, I wouldn't call this a loss because, it was a great learning experience. And I think, but I ultimately, I couldn't put myself and my investors in a situation where, we were going to lose money. Yeah. And that's what was going to happen if we would have just done the deal.
Well, for sure. Well, and it's what's also, I think, really important for people to hear, because a lot of times when people, they're not in the world of investment or business, and like they just saw that it wasn't happening. So they're like, oh man, he doesn't care. He doesn't believe in Salem. And that's not the case at all. Yeah. Right. Because if you think about it, if you put all of your money and finances, like if you put it into this project that loses a ton of money, it doesn't end up panning out for you or anyone else involved, then that's not good for Salem in the long run. No. Right? It's because so you need to be able to, because then you can't reinvest it into more projects. And so if you're going to be able to like keep investing in our community, it has to be stuff that will work.
Yeah, it's got to be healthy. Yeah, like for everybody involved. And we just we didn't see it being a viable project at the price point it was at. And, you just have to say, look, it's not going to be feasible now. And it doesn't mean it isn't in the future. I think there's still opportunity. The sellers could, come around at some point
Change
in time.
Change your mind or something.
Yeah, because I think, honestly, what my team put together, it probably gives that building the best chance of success.
Yeah, the highest and best use, I would say. Yeah,
exactly. Highest and best use. And, I'm still excited about it. Like, I think I went through a period of, you'll see this if you check out our Heavy Lifts podcast, where AJ and I talk about this period of mourning, where we're like, you put everything into it, right? Yeah. And it's like, it's almost like you lost a friend. It's just like, oh my God. Because, it's not just, for me, it wasn't just another deal. It was a big deal. Like it mattered, and it matters for the success of downtown, right? Yeah. And I still believe I still believe in downtown Salem.
Oh, 100%.
Absolutely. I think we all do.
Yeah.
One step back to maybe take a few steps forward. And it could be, who knows, it could be a different project, right?
Yeah.
It could be the same. But, it's important for people to know what happened and just to understand like where my head was at. And that's why we're here.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, no, and thank you for sharing that. I think sometimes, like, if you read an article or something, like, you can't get the content. It's kind of like with communication, right? Texting is a horrible way to communicate. Like, if you're fighting with your spouse, you can't see their tone, their face,
Yeah.
and so that's why, like, I wanted to
True.
have you on to talk about it here,
Yeah.
because then it's like people can see, like, oh, they can kind of like, oh, he cares a lot.
Yeah.
He wants to do stuff. And this one just wasn't what worked out.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And
I do hope they come around.
I do too. I do
Yeah.
too. And I think there's opportunities there. And AJ, they've engaged AJ Nash to help the listing
Nice.
for the, on the tenant side. And, he's obviously just as creative as anybody. And if he's going to,
so creative.
if anybody's going
to,
if anybody's going to figure it out, it's going to be him.
Yeah.
So, I think the building's in really good hands. And, ultimately, all I care about is for Salem to keep ticking forward and to have, good leadership, good ownership, and people who care about the city, because that's the only way we're going to get anywhere with, our downtown.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think another really good, important thing to talk about is I think sometimes there's a lot of people online who are like, oh, well, Salem sucks or Salem's boring.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not good. But it's also not good to be hunky-dory, happy, everything's beautiful and roses. You got to acknowledge, oh, well, here are the parts that we can improve.
Yes.
Otherwise, we're never going to improve them.
Oh, yeah. And I think one of the challenges that I dealt with this project was, I went to attend some of these, council meetings, right? I went to attend some of these like Salem Downtown Association meetings, and to kind of see how things were, I guess, the vibe more that the community had about downtown, right? And my questions were, is it a priority downtown for cleanliness and safety, right? Amongst our leading officials, and what is the dialogue happening here? Like, are we shouting at each other? Are we listening to each other in these meetings? And some of the meetings were contentious, and you could tell that there were different sides, right, to this situation downtown. And I don't want to call it a homeless situation. I want to call it a safety and cleanliness situation, right? And I think trying to, as an investor, wrap your head around, like this, extra layer, right, is challenging. And I think you need to have somebody who, who's involved in those things. Like let's just take, Patrick Carney, Mark Shipman, Kelly McDonald. They're with Salem Center.
Yeah, great guys.
They're great guys.
Yeah.
And the first thing I did when I got under contract with JCPenney, I went right across that bridge. I went straight to those guys and said, hey, like, can we partner, right? Can we help each other? And ask them a lot of questions, like, what are the challenges? And the big challenge for them was like, we need help from the city.
Yeah.
We are not getting that help, and, we need to get that help. And I said, okay, great. Well, what do we need to do? And, I started attending these meetings, and you can kind of get a sense of, where we're at by going to these meetings and saying, okay, these are the issues that, is on the plate for the city, and downtown needs to be more of a bigger topic than it is, right?
I 100% agree.
If you take this plate, if you were just to take this, big plate and divide it up into, sections and say, okay, this is an issue, it's let's just talk about, policing is an issue, cleanliness is an issue, this, that, and the other, whatever political issues you have on that table, like, downtown Salem, that's our living room.
Yeah.
Right. That's where we come, and that's where we greet people from other places.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how they see us as a community. And so I just think that we need to make it more of a priority in order for some of these projects to be successful.
Well, let's talk about just that for a minute, because I think that's a very interesting thing on itself.
Sure.
Because, I grew up here. I grew up out in Turner, Owensville area. And there's a lot of folks, and myself included when I was younger, because people would there was a whole pre-COVID, there was a big promote downtown push. And at the time, a lot of us were like, man, we don't live downtown. Why do we care? Yeah. And what I've learned as I've gotten older, especially like going through grad school and learning more about economics and learning more about how communities work, and as I kind of grew in the community, the more I've realized how important that is. Because like you said, it's like your living room. So like if you have a family and everyone in the family's in their own room playing video games on their TVs, the
Mm-hmm.
parents are in their room, the kids are off in their own room, everyone's isolated.
Right.
Then what happens like when you need each other in the good times or the bad
Mm-hmm.
times?
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, downtown's our living room. And
Mm-hmm.
so, families that come together and spend time together do better.
Yeah.
And that's something that as a community wanting to see long-term success and just like love and culture and
Mm-hmm.
fixing making our downtown great is vital.
Yeah, no, it is, and I do want to come. I want to come back to kind of something you said about on one of your other podcasts, and it actually might have been SBJ. Just about like Salem and what people think of Salem,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I had talked about like a lot of what I like about Salem is it's in an intersection of a lot of
Yes.
things. I think you made the point though that it's close to all these things, but it is not the thing.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It's close to the beach. It's close to the mountains. It's close to Portland. It's close to Southern Oregon. But
Yeah.
it is not like what is it? What is it? Right? So I
Yeah.
think there's
Yeah, well, and I think like that is a great thing about Salem. Like it
yeah,
is good,
right.
and that's always just been what we've always been told,
Mhm.
and that's what everyone. I've always heard people say that.
Yeah.
The negative people say it's the armpit of Oregon,
Right.
but
And
nobody cares about that. But when you're looking at what's good about it,
yeah.
and it was always that we're near all these places, but like that's like being the bridesmaid. We
Yeah.
want to be the bride.
Exactly. And how do we do that? And that's why
Mhm.
the feedback I got with a lot of when I was going through JCPenney and trying to figure out what it was going to be, it was like I did get feedback it was too boring, right? Salem was,
Mhm.
and I feel like there's a little bit of an identity issue
Yeah.
in Salem with like figuring out like who we are, right?
Mhm.
What is this community about? And needing to have more entertainment, like needing to have more personality, right?
Yeah.
That's a good thing, like right, like trying to figure out okay what we want to be about. But what's always drawn me here has been the quality of the people.
So
And
great
like,
people.
yeah, and
Yeah.
stability. With a lot of jobs
Mhm.
and just a feeling that like of community. And so
Yeah.
there's a sense that like okay, maybe as a young person you want more to do, right?
Mhm.
You don't think there's enough to do. That's fine. But for somebody who's my age, right? I'm in my 40s. I've
Yeah.
got a family. Like this is a great community to raise
Yes.
your kids. This is a great
Yeah.
community to have a business, right?
Mhm.
My business relationships have never been stronger because of the people here, right? There's
Yeah.
not every community you have that and
Yeah.
that kind of sense of like this is a place I can trust
Yeah.
and I can do business and I see a future in
Yeah.
this place, right?
Have you been to Vancouver, Washington recently?
I've been up to the waterfront.
Okay, yes.
Yes.
So what's really interesting about Vancouver, Washington is it's a foil to Portland. Because
Mhm.
Vancouver, Washington used to suck,
Yeah.
if we're all being honest, right? But when you look at Vancouver, Washington, the amount of millions of dollars they've invested into their downtown, into the waterfront, into building the pier, which if you think about the pier, it's not actual useful. It's just a cool thing that people can go walk on. What's really cool about that is they've invested so heavily in it. And the culture there is one that I think is a great comparison to Salem because Vancouver, Washington, I believe right now, is Portland, Oregon. If Portland went to therapy for 6 months,
Yeah.
like if Portland was like, maybe I'm the problem and maybe I should, clean up my act a little bit,
Mhm.
because what they have in Vancouver is a desire to be better. One of my best friends lives up there. And so like, just cause I've kind of met a couple business owners up there, I get the same sense there that I also get here,
Mhm.
which is really promising because like when you go there, their economic viability has gone skyrocketed.
Yeah.
The homelessness issue has gone down a lot. Like you
Yeah.
could see a lot of really good things happening. And I get the same feeling here that I really love, which we have a community that there's a desire and a thirst to be better,
Mhm.
which I think is super healthy. And that's something that, we just gotta, how can we harness that?
Yeah, and harness it within the framework of who we are too,
Yeah.
right? What they've done in downtown Vancouver. I mean,
Mm.
that's probably a $1 billion like
Oh,
renovation, of
yeah.
downtown and right on, the Columbia River, and everything is just like brand spanking new. And I think
Mhm.
we've got a lot of older buildings right downtown, and we've got you can make an argument that there's some buildings that need a facelift, right?
Yeah.
But I really want to encourage us to keep our history, right? I think we've got to really. There's a unique history here, and there's just like going through JCPenney and just like talking about the iterations of
Hmm.
how just the sky bridges came to be, right? That connection, and how all these like South downtown and North downtown kind of had this interplay where when North wasn't doing great, South was doing great, and then vice versa.
Yeah.
And so I think keeping that character is going to be really important for
Yeah.
Salem as it moves forward into the future. And I don't want it to look like Vancouver. I want it
No.
to maintain its
No. Yeah.
character.
Yeah. It's got to be its own, our
I
own
think
thing.
exactly,
I agree.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
think because I think when you look at Salem, like I don't think Salem wants to be considered ritzy, right? I don't think we want to be
No.
considered elegant. I think we
Yeah.
want to, we can be tough,
We're a little bit
right?
more rugged.
But yeah, we
out
can be
here.
a little bit rough around the edges, but like we're still cool,
Yes.
right? We still want to do some fun things,
Yeah.
right? And we have some really cool like businesses,
Yeah.
especially like downtown. Like I mean, I've talked to so many and met so many cool businesses owners
Yeah.
like this year. I just think of like Creativity, for example, like talking to the owner of that business and having her on my podcast was just like, oh my gosh, she's so fun and
Yeah.
she said such great ideas. So I still get tons of energy. But yeah,
I guess what I meant was what they have is that same desire to be a better city and to like
Yeah.
improve.
yeah,
That's what I really loved about it.
Yep.
But yeah, we can do that same thing, just our own brand.
yeah,
But the thing is, like, what is our brand?
right. I
You
think that's the question. I think
Yeah.
we.
But that's
need to
why.
ask.
Do you remember when you and I were walking through the alleyway and remember we were talking about the murals?
Yep.
Because I was telling you
Yeah.
about like, hey, I got this crazy idea of murals.
Yep.
And we were looking at like the walls of the Forge and of JCPenney's.
Mhm.
And then we heard that lady singing in the stairway.
Yeah, that was an amazing moment.
Yeah. And so that's why I just like, I would really love, and I don't know, maybe I'm completely wrong on this, but what I think would be really cool is if we got Salem known as the city of music and murals. Because I
Mhm.
think if we're looking at like an identity,
Mhm.
one that creates a good culture, that brings the left and the right together,
Yep.
that isn't taken yet, like
Yeah.
we could do it.
Yeah.
And it's not like we're reinventing the wheel. We're just like literally doing what other cities have done that's proven to be successful and then just like doing it. And it's not that expensive.
No, and it engages the community. I mean,
Yeah.
what I loved about your idea, and I think it's got legs, is just taking Electric Alley, right,
Mhm.
and saying, hey, like, can we create an entertainment district down this strip, right?
Yes.
Of like, it's just got such great character. If you walk back
Yeah.
there, like, you can enter, cozy, like Taberna from that side.
Yeah.
You can kind of just see like, wow, whoever came up with this idea, this alley, they were thinking about something in the future, and
Yeah.
and we can do something very, very cool with musicians, with
Yeah.
our artists, and we can create something that people want to be a part of, right?
Yeah.
And it's not going to cost a lot of money.
Yeah. In fact, I was running through some numbers on this. The murals one's a little bit harder for me to price out,
Mhm.
but so that one's like a little bit harder to price. But there is some public funding available for this, by the way,
Yeah.
because it already is an art fund. They just spend it on. Remember that weird statue that was in front of the Forge? They spend it
Mhm.
on stuff like that, which
yeah,
maybe some people really like it. I just think it would be better utilized in this because it could help give our city an actual identity. And so there is some public funding available, but we don't want to burden that on just taxpayers because I think there's a way for us to do this
Yeah.
another way.
Yeah.
But it would be dumb not to use the funding that's already there for it. So I do think we could use some of the public funding we already have. We could also get grants
yeah,
because I know there are some grants available for stuff like this for the murals part. So I think that could help pay for that. And then for the music, I was running through the pricing with Chris Fisher because his wife, are they married?
I think
Girlfriend?
girlfriend, yeah,
Okay, I'll take that part out. I was talking with Chris Fisher because his girlfriend Lexi
Yeah.
is a music artist and he knows a lot about the music scene in
Sure.
Nashville. And we were kind of talking through how this would work logistically.
Mhm.
And here's what we came up with: Thursday, Friday, Saturday night.
Mhm.
There's 3 artists each night, so there's
Yeah.
3 nights a week.
Yep.
3 artists each night.
Mhm.
Each artist has a 2-hour time slot. I also found out there's an ordinance where 10 o'clock is like quiet time downtown.
Mhm.
I didn't know that. I would like that to be 11.
Should it be a quiet time then?
I think it should be
Because,
11.
I mean, I feel like if I'm a business owner and I'm running a restaurant, like
Yeah.
I want to be open a little later.
Yeah.
And if you want to attract people downtown, like make the entertainment go for a little bit
At least
longer
till
in the evening,
11,
right? Yeah.
I think. But
Like,
we can
who are we trying to be quiet for?
people who live downtown.
Okay. I mean, I
There
feel
are
like,
apartments upstairs in a lot of these
yeah, I
places.
guess it just depends on where the entertainment is,
But
right?
maybe certain places could have a special permit to go later to
Yeah.
11.
Yeah,
It's just an
exactly.
hour, but that
Yeah,
hour does make a difference in nightlife.
it would.
A big
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, but so the original idea was, from 5 to 7, 7 to 9, 9 to 11, which we can move the hours depending on what the city wants.
Yeah.
To have 3 different artists, 3 different genres, which kind of forces us to see and try new things
Yep.
and have different artists available. And then we pay them.
Mhm.
So the bar or restaurant or venue pays
Mhm.
half the
Yep.
cost. So
Yep.
they pay $200.
Yep.
Or they can pay more if they choose to. But
Yeah.
then it's subsidized for the first couple years at least, right? The other $200. So we pay $400 for the 2 hours. And we do that for 3 artists, 3 nights a week. The total cost of that is $1,800 a month to the public. So $1,800. Sorry, let me do that. The total cost of that is $1,800 a week
Mhm.
to the public, or whatever, however we choose to fund this.
It's about eight grand a month, roughly.
Yeah, but $1,800 a week is not a bad price for being the coolest city in the state of Oregon.
Yeah.
And not just that, but we would attract artists from Portland, from Eugene, from the coast, from Bend,
Mhm.
who would come here, or even when they're on their way to other places,
Mhm.
stop by and play in Salem. So, we might not be the place where Morgan Wallen goes, but we can be the place where small artists can make a name for themselves.
Mhm.
And all it costs is $1,800 a week.
And it kind of feeds into what we were saying before about like Salem being a place that's close to a lot of places, right?
Mhm.
But not being necessarily the place. But like we can pull everybody in, right?
Yeah.
You pull everybody in from those different areas, and if you give artists like a place to thrive, a place to
Mhm.
show themselves, right? Like it's not going to cost a ton of money, but it's also going to give you a sense of like culture and that kind of like
Yes.
if you were to walk
Yeah.
down, let's take I threw a party last weekend for some friends. We
Mhm.
called it Nashville Comes to Oregon,
That
right?
sounds so fun.
And it was basically you dress up like you were walking down Broadway Street in Nashville, and
Wait, so you had you all dressed up?
everybody dialed in like cowboy hats,
What were you wearing?
boots. I was wearing, so I was the sheriff since I was running the party.
Oh,
My wife was the
yes.
deputy, right?
Can I get a photo of this that I can put up?
Absolutely, yeah. I would love to
Love
give
that.
that. Yeah, and and we had we rented a bus and we kind of just went around to like these different areas in Portland, and just like you can imagine 50 people descending on a bar,
Yeah.
right? Dressed in cowboy gear, right? It's
Yes.
just fun. It's a fun vibe, and very few people don't like that vibe, right? It's such a cool in country music. Like what I would love to see with the vision you're talking about is Electric Alley, right? To be kind of like Broadway in Nashville, where you have a bunch of different bars, right? And you kind of hop, right, to different bars.
Yeah.
If you have maybe a friend's getting married, you have a bachelor party, right? You're taking everybody, back there, right?
Yeah.
Or it's you bring in your girlfriends out, right? You can imagine like the kind of fun scene you could have.
Yeah.
But it takes music. Music brings people together
Yeah.
in a way that other art does not.
Completely.
And I would love to see Thursday, Friday, Saturday, some sort of entertainment venue back there, and figure out how to do it in a way that there's vendors who can kind of pop up as well and be a part of that kind of ride where you're starting here, you're ending over here, and it's just like a big just like a buzz, and it can be done because you have plenty of real estate space, right?
We do.
And it can be done for a reasonable price, as you said. But yeah, we could pull everybody in. So I think it's a great idea. I think it's something that we should, we've been looking into, and we should, especially if we want to.
Well, and when we look at Salem as a whole, right? I mean, I think this is something we all talk about in any public meeting or forum or group I was in or committee. Everyone talks about wanting to make sure each part of Salem's represented or included.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about it as if we have to go find someone from over there and then bring them in. I think that'll be fun. Well, actually, maybe one thing that would be good, and maybe I could probably use your help if you would like to. It would be because I started a petition thing to get people to sign, and I've got a couple things planned around this to get more people to sign on.
Mm-hmm.
And so the last couple weeks, this last month, I've spent a lot of time doing groundwork. So I've reached out to like a lot of local bar owners and restaurant owners saying, hey, is this something you would get behind and support if we would do it?
Yeah.
I've also been compiling a list of artists,
Okay.
like music artists that I know, saying, hey, is this an idea that you would publicly support? And also finding like different communities and associations trying to get their public support as well.
Okay.
So I think that was kind of number one, so first we had to throw the idea out. Step number two is like getting the support from, I think, the right people and showing. So then now I could take, hey, these people were supporting it. These artists support it. These restaurants support it. Yeah. Now we have that. The next part is, okay, well now how can we make sure that we get traction? I think that takes figuring out how we get the actual thing paid for, the $1,800 a week. Now the question then becomes, okay, well, do we fund it privately or publicly? And then if we are going to do it privately, how do we do it and who's going to pay for it? Mm-hmm. And how do we raise the money for it? But I do think those conversations it might be good maybe to have a public forum on it. Because if you think about it, there's going to be healthy debate over it. There's going to be people saying, well, these people should pay for it. These people shouldn't pay for it. And nobody's going to agree with us or agree with each other. Yeah. But since the stakes are kind of low, it's not like crime. It's not like the homelessness issue. Yeah. We're not talking about people's lives. We're just talking about music. And so I think it could be a good opportunity for us to like reteach ourselves. How do we have healthy debate and conversation about ideas and policy?
Yeah. And you think? Well, I think it's, I had Jacob Espinoza on my podcast about a month ago, and he was talking about that idea of bringing people together, who have different viewpoints in a setting that is, for lack of a better word, nonviolent, right? Not contentious. If you and I were on different sides of the aisle, right? And we were to come to a place where, you have like all of my supporters over here and all of your supporters over here, it creates a contentious environment, right? But if you were able to curate it so that it's just like, look, it's friendly, like we have a few drinks, right? We're, I'm not trying to be right. Yeah. You're not trying to convince me, about your opinion. You're just trying to state your opinion and have a constructive dialogue and hear, what I'm saying, like that. It sounds like something that could be a good trial run to, and if you started it with that issue right there, right? Bringing music to Salem. How do we do it? Who funds it, public or private? Yeah. Then that starts a debate. It starts interest, right? And it sparks a potential to like, hey, let's have people weigh in on this. And of course, people are going to have, different opinions on this side and on this side of it. But it gets the ball rolling, and then you'll know, right? I mean, the beautiful thing about social media, a lot of people demonize it. I think of it just as a tool, but is you can already see in real time, like, what people think, right? And there's some really good ideas that are out there. And so I think I would be really interested to see that in action, to see a place where there's a healthy place to debate and over an issue that matters to Salem. Yeah. And then,
and the great part about this is the stakes are so low.
Oh yeah.
Right? If we fail, there's just not music.
No,
we're back where we're at.
Yeah. We're back to square one. You're trying to solve it in a different way. And, but it would be, I would be interested to see. So maybe there's something to that.
Well, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
And on that, I wanted to ask you this, and this is something I think we talked about maybe briefly a little while ago, because you've gone through kind of the process of hearing like what the community wants and trying to cater things towards that. And this might be helpful for local business owners. Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard the story about the Ford Edsel?
No.
Okay, so I wanted to hear kind of your thoughts on this, because there's a lot of thoughts that you want to figure out, like in business, what people want, and then try to meet that demand. Yeah. But there are some times, and Steve Jobs was one of these people, who sometimes people don't know what they want. And like, for example, like with the iPhone, right? People are like, you can use your fingers? That's crazy. Why don't you use a stylus? But it turns out he was right. And so like, I was curious just as a thought thing, to hear your thought on how well do you think people know what they want? Because you've gone through a lot of the process of like asking people, what do you want? And like, how can I help meet that need? And so the story of the Ford Edsel is Ford did that. Ford did a survey of America, essentially, where they went to all of America and said, hey, what do you want in a car? And people said, we want this feature, we want that feature, we want this feature, we want that feature. And they put all of these features into one car, and it was going to be the best car ever created in the history of the world, because They gave people exactly what they said they wanted. And it's known as one of the biggest flops in business
Mm-hmm.
ever.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's really interesting is they gave people what they said that they wanted, and they didn't want it. And so
Mm-hmm.
I just think that's such an interesting case study.
Yeah.
And versus, sometimes that does work, and sometimes it doesn't. But sometimes it takes the Steve Jobs saying, "No, we're going to use our fingers,"
Totally.
to create a product that actually is useful, and people are like, "Oh, they really like it."
Mm-hmm.
What do you do, like in parallel 45, right?
Mm-hmm.
45th parallel.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was a new idea,
Yeah.
right? That wasn't really like
Right.
I don't know. I haven't seen a model like that
Right.
yet. And so like, what's your thoughts on, do you think the general, like, people kind of know what they want a lot of times? Or do you feel like sometimes you just kind of create things and you see what happens?
That's a really good question. And I would start by answering it in terms of cost first.
Mhm.
Like my mind just goes there. I was an accounting major in college, and I've seen a lot of case studies on what has worked and what hasn't in business.
Mhm.
And I'm sure with the Ford Edsel, cost was a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody wanted a huge engine, right? Probably, everybody wanted it to be like probably like a nicer car, maybe more of a luxury car.
It had all the
and
bells and
yeah,
buttons
you had all
and
the bling,
whistles
probably all
and-
the bling that
Yeah.
you couldn't really make it affordable, right, for everybody, and you need to have something that's affordable for everybody.
Mhm.
So what I realized with the 45th parallel concept was the bigger the space, the more risk.
Mhm.
And the smaller the space, the less risk, right?
Mhm.
The bigger the space, fewer the tenants.
Mhm.
The smaller space, the more tenants there are. And so when you start like demising these spaces, meaning, cutting them up into smaller bite-sized pieces, more
Mhm.
people can afford them, and you can increase your rent, right? And I
Mhm.
think, it was more like maybe a quantity over quality, but I wouldn't say there's lack of quality. There's more quality in the smaller spaces because you get your own mini split, right?
Yeah.
Because you get climate controlled, right? You can customize it however you want. Whereas the big box stuff, it's like, well, one person's going to come in here, one tenant, and just take care of it.
Yeah.
So I think there's a cost component to that question. About what do you give people what they want, or do you give them what you think they want, right?
Yeah.
But I think where my mind also goes secondarily is the marketing component.
Mhm.
How do you market, right, your product? And I've learned this year, especially with being a part of the Forge and being
Yeah.
part of that marketing
Well,
team.
that's been a huge project.
Yeah, and just like learning from some folks, that I worked with there who are better at marketing than I ever could be,
Yeah.
about how they see things, right? And the visuals and the interaction, the engagement,
Mhm.
right? You need to really figure out like who your target audience is, like who you're selling to.
Yeah.
Like, who is that person? At the Forge, it was like we spent months figuring out our voice, right? What do we want the building to sound like?
Yeah.
Who was she? We figured it was a female because we had so many aesthetics related businesses on the
Yes.
second floor. So it was like,
Okay.
what did we want her to be like? And it started with, if you remember from Ted Lasso, Rebecca Welton was the character. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yes. She
She's
was the owner
Yeah.
of
So-
the team.
Yes,
Correct.
right.
Yeah.
And so we started there, but that was it seemed like her character was a little bit too aloof. We didn't want in English, like we wanted this person to be American, right?
Yes.
And we didn't want, and
Yeah,
we
don't do baked beans and toast over here.
We sure do not.
No.
It's not that culture. So
that makes me want to throw tea in the harbor just thinking about it.
100%. So we Americanized her, but we still wanted it to be an elevated experience, right? The Forge.
Yeah.
We still wanted it to be. We wanted our businesses who are coming in to really have a sense of like, okay, like I am competing on a higher level here, right?
Okay.
Because the price points are a little higher.
Yeah.
Right. But we still wanted to have it, curated in that sense. So we were talking to them like throughout our whole marketing campaign. It was like, these are the tenants we wanted to attract. And we've gotten that on the second floor, and we've been successful. So like, I think creating a vision for a tenant is so important. Like a couple of things we did really well. I wish I could take credit for it. I can't, but it's just creating,
you can if you want.
Yeah,
I'll
maybe
you.
I will.
Yeah.
It's a blank space, right?
Yeah.
And you're dreaming for somebody else. You're saying, hey, what if you were a gym and you were here? Right? What if you were a salon and you were here? What if you were into skincare and you were here? And just like giving a business owner a kind of a sense of like, hey, what if I was here? What if I could be in this room?
Yeah.
What would it look like? And engaging on that
That's really interesting. So you mean like as you guys were building the women's collective, which is
Yep.
the second floor of the
Mhm,
Forge,
mhm,
you kind of had in mind, here are the clients we want here,
mhm.
because really anybody could come try to do it.
Yeah.
Did you turn people away who didn't fit that mold?
Yes, we did. And the cool thing was we could shift them to the first floor.
Oh,
Okay,
that
so
makes
the
sense.
first floor could be a little bit, I guess more free in terms of like what use was down there.
Hmm.
But we really wanted to make sure that tenants who were in our second floor, were mindful of being collaborative, right? We wanted them to
Hmm.
be collaborative. We wanted them to we had to look at their social media handles to make sure that they presented themselves well,
Yeah,
right? We didn't want somebody coming in who wasn't didn't fit that mold, right?
I see
And
what
you
you
could
mean.
you could and you
Yeah,
could really tell right away, with the business whether or not they were going to fit. And
yeah,
it didn't have to be a female owned business as long as it was aesthetics driven, right?
yeah.
It could
What
work.
does aesthetics mean?
Aesthetics like more, skincare, makeup,
Gotcha.
nails, hair, all that
Gotcha.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, because
yeah.
it's the women's collective.
Right.
So it's catered towards women.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you are a man and you wanted to come through there and experience that, like,
Yeah.
hey, no problem.
I might go get my nails done.
Right. And regardless of how you identify, we want you to
Yeah.
feel like you were invited to be there. And it was a place that was different from other parts of Salem.
Yeah. Actually, I was invited to come do hot yoga upstairs.
And have you gone yet?
You want to come with me?
I've already gone, but I
Oh.
will go again. Did you know AJ and I did a hot lofts class?
Oh no. What does that mean?
Well,
That
it was
sounds scary.
it was hot yoga. So
Okay.
for an hour,
Alright.
we interviewed Larissa Adabo, who was the owner,
Yeah.
and I challenged AJ. I said, "Hey, you want to come to a class with me?"
Oh
And
no.
he was like, "All right, I'll do it." And of course, he was running late. I was slightly late, but I wasn't as late as he was. He rolls in, throws all his stuff in the corner, rolls out his mat, and he's still got his like sweatpants on and his socks. It was his first ever yoga class,
Okay.
and I was just kind of cracking up because I'd done a fair amount of yoga, and he looked like a fish out of water. But
That's
I
gonna be
would be
me.
happy
That's
to
gonna be me.
do I'd be happy to do a class with you. It's incredible.
Oh,
It's so and that experience too is
Yeah.
something that like you don't find very often in Salem, right? So that kind of brings a different
yeah.
a different tenant or a different client to our building,
Yeah.
right? And
Well, I
it's
met
really cool.
Larissa, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I met Larissa, and she was so nice.
Oh, she's great.
I was with me and Jordan and Ryan.
Yep.
We're all at the Forge, and yeah, she came out and greeted us and invited us to one of the classes, and I was like, nah. I was like, yeah. Just absolutely not. I was like, there's no way I'm doing that.
No, why wouldn't you want to do it?
It's out of my comfort zone now. Which, to be fair, you got to get out of your comfort zone. I'm usually pretty good
Yeah.
at doing that.
Yeah.
But there were some things I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Right.
And that was one of them. I'm not going to do it. But then she messaged me a couple times, and she's like, Jesse, you got to come. I was like,
Yeah. I'll go with you.
all right.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I do.
I told her I would now. And now
Yeah.
I have to be a man of my word.
Let's do a
So-
Wednesday class. Wednesday mornings are great. She has like an 8:00 class that was like, it's real chill, right?
Yeah.
It's slower. You don't have to worry about, if your fitness level isn't quite what it needs to be. Like you can still, do the
Yeah.
poses and you're challenging yourself, but yoga's great.
How hot is it?
It's not bad. So I've done Bikram yoga, which is like
Yeah.
100 degrees. I don't know. It's ridiculous. And you're just like dripping sweat, right?
That's what I imagine.
This
in
is
my head.
this is like you're gonna have a light sweat,
Okay.
right? It feels warm, but you're not working hard enough for it to like really just start dripping.
So you're going to have a light sweat. I'm going to be dripping.
Probably, but
Gosh,
make sure you bring a towel.
I'm excited. Okay, we're going to do it. We have to do it now.
Got to do it, yeah, yeah.
Gosh.
And it's fun. It's a great experience.
Gosh. Well, thank you for sharing that. I always like hearing like your insights, and I think you're really wise. And so I always like learning from you.
Thank you.
But on the note of like, how you visioned that and how you
Mhm.
planned it and the current projects you're working on. So you have
Yeah.
45th Parallel.
Yes.
You're now part owner in the Forge.
Mhm.
And you guys, like that project's been so fun to see
Yeah.
come to fruition and
Yeah.
see it like it's almost completed now.
Yeah.
What's next? Do you have your eyes peeled
Mm-hmm.
on anything? What are you planning?
I've needed the last, we made that announcement about JCPenney. I got to spend about a month now.
Mm-hmm.
And because I think we announced it on the 24th of October, and so we're towards the end of November now. I needed some time to really figure out my next step because I had
Yeah.
so much, so many eggs in that JCPenney basket.
Oh yeah.
And so I needed time to just kind of figure out, okay, where's the next move, right?
Yeah.
And I'm still going through that right
Yeah.
now, but I have listed a few of my properties to sell for another opportunity. And so they're still for sale.
What's the other opportunity?
I don't know. That's the
Oh.
thing.
You're prepping. You're
Right.
getting ready.
Just getting ready.
Yeah.
And, with the understanding that there is another project on the horizon. What is it? Where is it? That is the question. I think I've learned so much about downtown, right? I would love to, there's a building that's for sale called the US Bank right there. It's on Court Street, one street down. What's that street?
The US Bank building.
Yeah.
Let me investigate.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the fancy looking one?
Yep.
That's not for sale. That's for sale?
Yeah, it's for sale. Yeah.
The cool looking building?
Mm-hmm.
No, you got to buy that.
Yeah. No, I mean,
That's literally the coolest building in Salem.
It's a really cool building. Yeah. And there's
What are you going to do with it? Well, let's play a game. What would we do with it? What are some things we could do?
Well, I think I haven't even walked through to look at it, to look at the inside. I do know it comes with US Bank, which is a tenant in tow. So you kind of you de-risk a little bit by having a tenant who's already going to be paying your rent.
Okay.
There's a portion of the building you can build out.
Is there any vacant spot that you can do something new?
Yeah. So there's a portion of the building you could, so they could take a portion, right? They already have a portion. I think there's let's just say there's 30% of it that, is, available to build out, right? That's what, you could use you could build a food hall, let's say. You could, build another 45th parallel, part 2, right? Which is what we were envisioning over at JCPenney, just small micro suites, right?
Yeah.
And just get more businesses downtown. Maybe there's an entertainment component to it. But the things that interest me now are trying to figure out how a city like Salem is going to interact with itself, like the community is going to interact, right, downtown, right? And what things do we need to put downtown to make people come downtown?
Yeah.
Right? What anchors do you need to place down there, right? If it's JCPenney, if it's US Bank, to get people to just come. And we have an entertainment space that we're going live on next month. It's called Cellar 54.
Okay.
I
remember talking about this.
Yeah, events and
This is
entertainment.
exciting.
Yeah, so we own, and I got into the events venue industry kind of by accident with a space I had at the 45th Parallel building that was just kind of in the corner of our building, unused. The highest and best use was potentially office space or storage or something. But I was like, that's not fun. No. I want to swing some doors. I want to get some people coming through. And so I created this event space called The Space.
Yeah, which, by the way, we used.
Yes.
So when I bought the I've owned the SBJ for about 2 years with my business partner, one of my really close friends, and then I bought him out in January. And in order to relaunch the brand of, hey, SBJ is going to be a lot more involved in the community. We're going to be, shaking, moving things. I did. And I invited some close friends and family, and we used The Space as the spot where we launched it. And it was a great spot. It was super fun. Everyone was really great to work with. Our experience of booking it, using it, and leaving we had nothing but positive things to say. That was before I even met you.
Yeah, and that's what the first time I heard about you. And Michaela Larson, who is my events director, she's saying your praises. Said it was just a good, fun young group who was excited about doing things in Salem. I was like, oh, I got to meet these guys. And so from that experience, just creating that space, that place where people get together. I'm a social person. I love getting people together and creating memories.
That 90s party was fun too.
The 90s party was great, right?
Yeah.
We wanted to create a space that was plug and play, right? All you had to do is you book it, and then we give you a code. You go in, you have fun, you leave, right? We take care of the rest. And so we wanted to duplicate that business model downtown with Cellar 54.
Yeah.
And we're adding a layer to it, which is entertainment, which we're still trying to figure out. But your entertainment side is going to be, okay, we have a bar, right? We have a bartender. Is there a comedy show that wants to come through here? Which we are having a comedy show December 5th and 6th.
Oh, that's exciting.
Next month. Yeah, you better buy
Yeah.
tickets.
Oh, yes, I got the invite.
Yes. Okay, great.
Yes.
So please go buy tickets. $15 for general admission.
Yep.
VIP is $25. We're gonna have our bar open. We're gonna have some food
Mm-hmm.
for everybody. And Eddie Ift is coming down from Portland to join us. He's a nationally known comedian. He's been on Joe Rogan. He's been on
cool.
Some of these other awesome comedy platforms. But like that's like we're talking about like downtown Salem and trying to revive things down there. Like, what's the best way to revive things? And Jacob and AJ and I have always talked about like parties will save us all, right?
Yeah.
We want to party our way into more events and more experiences downtown. And so we want to throw a bunch of parties at Cellar 54.
Well, that's what me and Jordan always talk about, because like one thing that we do is like, we like to think we're pretty good at throwing events. And so I think that that's the one thing. I think there's some more, but I think like that's the one thing that like what's pretty common is we're talking about improving Salem.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to go straight to, we got to fix the crime. We got to fix homelessness. We have to fix the foster system. We have to fix child abuse. Yeah. But those things have been an issue for decades. Mm-hmm. They're an issue currently. They're going to continue being an issue in the future. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like, yes, let's solve those. Mm-hmm. But let's also enjoy life a little bit along the way. You know what I mean? And it's like you can't successfully ride a bike if you're staring at a brick wall over here. You know, like you can't. You're gonna crash. Yep. And so, I agree with you. I think that while it's really important to focus on improving some of the policies and the business aspect, the real life culture aspect is also important. And I think sometimes we lose that.
Brittany Randall, who I had on my podcast a few months ago, I think said it really well when she said, you got to look at downtown Salem like a garden, right? Mm-hmm. And yes, you could go out and try to pull a bunch of weeds, right? Mm-hmm. Or you can plant more, right? And create more, right? And by doing that alone, the weeds are going to eventually go away, right? And so I really took that to heart. The more of a downtown vibe we can get, the more action, the more things we're doing with events, the more people are going to go downtown, and the less likely people who aren't serving us downtown, right? So the vagrants who are causing any problems downtown, right? Mm-hmm. The folks who the portion of maybe those who are unhoused who are causing property damage or this or that, because not everybody who's unhoused is causing issues, but that portion who are causing any issues, it's like if more people are downtown, like there's gonna be less likely that those people are going to want to be downtown, right? Yeah. So like I feel like we can.
Well, and not just that, but a lot of the issues that the city has with budgeting, right? A lot of the problems that we have are like funding different things. We have 17,000 different levies coming to, and that's, people are feeling it. People are feeling right now the burden of all these new taxes that keep coming on. We just learned, Chariots is trying to put another tax on people, which is just adding another layer, another burden. And just your everyday people are just like, it's just hitting hard, which we love our community, but at the same time, it kind of hits.
Oh, it hits really hard.
By making downtown great, right? We're able to increase the whole economic pie, which will increase tax revenues.
Yes.
Which will then help fund all these things. Mm-hmm. And so by us focusing on, hey, how can we bring music downtown? How can we bring art downtown? Mm-hmm. How can we have events downtown? By doing that, we're also helping with a lot of these other issues like crime, like homelessness, because the economic activity will increase, people's overall well-being. It'll increase people's mental health, and it'll also increase a lot of tax revenue, which will help pay for a lot of these things. And so it's kind of like a win-win.
It is. And it's really about swinging doors. It's just about getting people, to believe in downtown again and to come down. And I get excited because there's, with like Cellar 54, it's another blank slate, right? Like we wanted to have a space that doesn't have, like, we didn't want to give it a ton of character, because we wanted you to be able to come in and be like, I want to throw my SBJ party here. And it's got a cool bar, and I can decorate how I want to decorate. And then when I leave, it's, my stuff, and it's fine. And it's got a warming kitchen. It's got a green room. It's got like all these things that the space doesn't have, that I think is going to be really exciting for, our guests to utilize downtown. And then when they're done, they're going to go downtown and party, right? They're done with their event at our space. Like, they can go somewhere else and spend their money, right? And that builds up like, all these businesses that are, needing more revenue. And
Yeah.
and then the vibe when you're partying is just it's such a better vibe, right?
Yes.
Than when you're in kind of that different mindset. We want the Friday, Saturday mentality to come downtown and to have fun and to feel,
Yeah.
but you make a good point. A lot of people are hurting, from
Yeah.
taxes, from, cost of goods going up. Inflation has hurt. Like I look at my tenants at 45th Parallel Building.
Yeah.
A lot of people are hurting.
Yeah.
And, we're trying to work with our tenants as best we can to get them through this, and be mindful of that. And, so anything we can do to make things affordable, to give discounts, like those are just like really important things to help people understand that, like, we're understanding what you're going through, right?
Yeah.
And we want to make this appealing for you and not make it overly expensive.
Yeah. All right, Nat. So rumor has it you are going to be speaking at the Salem Area Chamber of Commerce Emerging Leaders Luncheon on December
2025.
on December 11th,
Yes.
2025. What are you the most excited about for that event?
Well, that is, the rumor's true. I was really excited when Salem Chamber reached out, because I'm passionate about working with the chamber just in general, because there's so many good people. Tom Hoffer, Jackie Roche over there, who I just enjoy talking to, right? And they're just they're champions. They're the champions of Salem, and they, they're taking bullets for us all the time, right? Trying to make Salem a better place, and I love them for that. So I was honored from that standpoint, but then to speak to some of our younger generation, right, business owners who were just trying to get going, right, trying to figure out like their way. It got me fired up, and I couldn't envision a better way to spend a lunch hour than talking to some of these folks and learning more about what their challenges are, right? And talking about some of the challenges I've had in my business, right? And maybe giving them a couple ideas that maybe will be helpful for them moving forward. So I'm stoked about it. Cellar 54 is going to host it. So it's going to be one of our first, business and networking events that we're going to have at Cellar 54. So that'll be exciting.
Well, what are a couple of things, just like, don't tell me everything, but what's like a couple of topics that you think you might touch on while you're there?
I think always when I'm speaking, like being an ex-professional athlete, like, people can really understand, right, more what it means to, like in sports, right? There's so many analogies in sports we use, right? And so I like to use some of the stories that I went through, right, and share some of those stories about how I went undrafted as a rookie, how I made my first monthly salary was $850 a month, right?
Sheesh.
And and how I had to really prove myself to start making better money, to start getting respected, right? And that kind of journey is hard, because if you look at a small business, which is a majority of Salem business is small businesses.
Totally.
You look at the journey, like you start in a place where you're working out of your home, you have an idea, and you're just kind of squeaking by. You're investing, you're losing money, right? Throwing money out the door, and then at some point in time, you get some more traction, right? You're not there yet, but you get traction, right? And then you have another point in time where you give a mentor, then that kind of helps you, and then you make a connection with another vendor, and it's like that helps you, and then like you're kind of starting to put these pieces together, but you're wearing all these hats. It's like, oh god, I got to be marketing, I've got to be the president, I've got to deal with sales, like and like going through that, like, and letting people know like you're not alone, like like we've all been there. And I mean, I started a brand new business last year with Event Space. I didn't know what I was doing. Like,
that's crazy.
And trust me, like if I can do it, like anybody can do it. So I like to share those things, and I think there's a camaraderie with business and business owners. Like you have your business, SBJ Media, right? I've got my business, Backland Real Estate. There's so many things we can share and help each other out, right? So that's what gets me fired up.
Well, I'm excited for it.
Thank you.
I always like hearing your stories, and especially like I really like the fact that you were a professional athlete, because sports is something a lot of us can relate to as well, just kind of like music.
Yeah, it is.
And so I really love how you tie the two together.
Yep,
I think that's cool.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
And one other thing before we go, you recently accepted an award on behalf of the Timbers let's talk about that for just a second.
Yeah, well, this year's been fun for me because it's the 10-year anniversary
Yep.
of the year that we won the MLS Cup championship for Major League Soccer, and I got traded here from Real Salt Lake, 11 years ago.
Yep.
That next year we won it, right? Won the championship.
That's
and so
crazy.
it was such a crazy
Yeah.
ride, to go, the roller coaster ride that is the season that ends with a championship. It's so special. It's so amazing. But we're 10 years later now, and we're doing all these celebrations. And so the team got inducted into the Sports Oregon Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And I got to be, myself with two of my other ex-teammates got to be there to accept the award. And it was just inspirational because, like, leading up to us being on stage, there was like 5 or 6 other, athletes and teams that were being honored.
Yeah.
And you hear these stories and you just get goosebumps. It's like a woman who, when she was younger, fell out of a tree, became paralyzed. She was an athlete, but then she becomes, one of our best wheelchair athletes to play basketball, right?
Yeah,
and she
cool
she gets like an Olympic medal, and she talks about like just the challenges of bringing like her wheelchair to the airport that she's using to play basketball. Then she's got her other wheelchair she's got to deal with, and this is before like
those are separate wheelchairs.
Yeah, and then exactly, and it's like things we don't have to think about, like and then there's like this is prior to like ADA having any sort of standard, right, in the country, and so it's like as a minority she's having to deal with all this, and you're thinking like, I mean, for me it's like, oh, I just show up to the stadium and play. But for her it's like, no, I've got all this other things I have to worry about, and the world wasn't made for me, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, like you get you just kind of get this sense of like the challenges other people are facing are just so much greater than the ones that you think you're facing, and it's like I get inspired by those people.
Yeah. Well, I have another question. Sorry, we were going to stop, but I just have more questions for you.
All good.
One, I think that's really cool, and I'm really proud of you. I think it's so cool, like how great you are at soccer. I was never really watched soccer, and so once I kind of got the depth of how freaking good you were, I was like, holy crap, that was really good. and not just that, but like, didn't you win like you were like the top cornerback the Timbers ever had? Is that what it was?
Yeah, so they had a fan vote.
Yes.
And I got voted into the best, one of the best 11 players of all time.
Yes.
Right? And it's funny to hear you say that statement about me being a great soccer player, because I was a defender, right? And my job was to make sure people couldn't score, right? So on like the technical side, I wasn't like, let's say Messi, right? Messi's like really good at scoring goals and like dribbling and everything. That wasn't my game. My game was more rough and tumble, right? It was more, brute force,
style.
right? Yeah, like think of any forcer in hockey.
So you're like a soccer's linebacker.
Like a linebacker or free safety, right?
Okay,
but kind of combined into one, right? Because that's kind of the position on the field that I had. And so, I got to kind of be like the defensive general right back there. And just like as I grew older, I realized how important communication was, right? How important it was to get the pieces into place prior to the accident happening, right?
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that, but like I never considered myself to be, great, in terms of like the offensive players, because that wasn't my goal. But on the defensive side, that's where you won games, right? That's where championships were won. Yeah. And if you could figure that piece out, like you gave yourself a really good opportunity to like win games. And so to have all that, like all those experiences come back this year, and to have all this, all these events, like it's filled my cup. And I've just been so grateful to see old teammates and to recount some of the stories and just kind of have fun with it, because it's once in a lifetime opportunities that you get to experience the rest of your life. Right. And the one thing that stuck with me is the double post game. It was a playoff game where we go to PKs at the end, and one of the opponent's players had a PK to win. Right.
Wow.
He steps up, he hits it off one post, right, and it starts going to the other post, right. And you're thinking the whole time he runs off like he'd won it. Right?
Okay.
And it ricochets somehow off the other post and out. Right.
So it hit one, bounced to the other. So he thought it hit in the goal.
Yeah.
Like it almost always does. But for some reason it hit the other post and then shot out.
And I'm not a physics major, but like normally, like if you hit both posts, it goes in somehow. Like there's just like a ricochet effect. They just like do. It's just gonna. I've never seen it before.
The sound it makes.
I don't. It was probably not like that, but I'll fix that. But that game, we go on to win that game, right? And there
Yeah.
was all kinds of, ups and downs in the game, but like people remember that game, and people who were there
Yeah.
or even watch the TV talk to me about that game all the time. And it's like, we have this shared memory.
Yeah.
And so my takeaway was like, anybody who experienced that, right? Whether, you weren't on the field like you were with me, but
Mhm.
like I was, but you still were there. And so like you're always going to have that experience, right? Of that togetherness of like
Yeah.
a fan, and the inspiration it gives you. And I think about that a lot when I think about like the events we're creating
Yeah.
and the experiences we're trying to curate, because like if you can give somebody an experience that is they remember forever the rest of their life, like you've given them something worth more than gold, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of what my takeaway has been this year.
I love that. We got to create double post events.
We do. We got to create our own double post bar down here in Salem.
Gosh, you're so right. That'd actually
That'd
be
be fun.
That'd be really
How
cool,
rad would that be?
actually.
Yes.
And the story behind that would be really
Oh,
awesome.
that'd be so much fun. Yeah. We got to figure out how to trademark that.
Yeah, fun. It's our trademark as we speak.
That's it. We're on it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, Nat, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I love sharing this memory with you, my friend.
Heck yeah, brother. That was good. That was a good tie-up. Well, thank you so much, Nat, for coming on the Salem Business Journal podcast. Thank you so much to Hotel Salem and Compass Visuals for sponsoring the podcast. Appreciate you guys. See you next time.